Hi, this is the video showing you how to do the payroll calculator. So let me bring up or let me kind of talk about it. So basically, the purpose of this is for you to um, run a program and understand what the processes are involved. Um, in fact, I'm going to give you all the codes you need. All you have to do is to copy and run it. But understand what the process is and how the program is actually written. Okay, so let me bring in the code or the lesson plan, and you just need to submit a screenshot. So this is the lesson plan that you'll have downloaded from the Blackboard. Let me get down to the program here. So um, the purpose of this particular program is the payroll calculator, and I'd like you to start using the best practice of writing a program, which I'll actually be giving it to you. But at the beginning of the code, I'd like you to put in basic information about that code, like your name, the course number, the title, and description of what it is, and then use what's called an IPO format, and that is basically a input, process, output. And so under the input, write down what kinds of inputs you're going to be taking into the program, and then process kind of talks about uh, what are you going to do about it, and then the output would be what are you going to produce as a result, right? And you can do this on any IDE or compilers that you may already have, or you can use the online code, the compiler that I'm going to be using for the demo purpose right now. And here is the code. So let me copy this code right here. I usually don't like to copy this here because this is not a text file, but so it might have some formatting characters. But let me bring up the compiler. So here is the online compiler that you can use. And basically I'm going to just paste it on here, right? And you're going to just run it. And you're going to say, I don't know, job or something. And then you're going to enter the number of hours you worked. For the query, I'm just going to say 1 hour, and then it's going to give you the outputs, right? Hello, John, because that's what you typed in, and then your gross amount and these items. And then basically all you have to do is to take a screenshot of this, showing the both the program as well as your output. It doesn't usually it will not capture all of your program because um, it'll be kind of long, but I do want to see some of it as well as your output in the same screenshot. Your actual code in the future, I like you to submit it using a text editor, so that I can actually copy and run it on my own to verify your work. But anyway, so let me kind of go over this here as to what it is that we're doing. As I mentioned, you want to have a informational section at the top that is enclosed by the quotations here with your name, the class, the title of the program, and then the output chart that I talked to you about. In the input, you can list what you're going to be inputting, and in this case, this is okay. But in the future, if you want to list out a little bit more detail, that'd be great. And then here's the actual code. You want to give a little description of what it is that the section that you're doing. So here is a pound sign for the comment. You can say input from, or you can say even getting input from user, right? So you can say whatever. But this here, as you will learn in the design book, as I'm going to explain to you, that in the programming language, for Python, we execute from the right side in any assignment statement and assign that to the left item. So here, this is an input statement, and all the reserved word will be in red for this compiler, which is kind of nice. And the comment sort of text type of things would be in green. So this is an input statement, and you put the parentheses in it with a quotation of exactly how you want to put it in. Of course, input statement could have other items on there, but all we're going to do is to let the user know to enter the first name. Why first name? That's because that's what I decided. And then I put a little space here because I want that space to be available, and when the user types it in, it'll be like right over here, right? So you want to give a little space. And then whatever the user puts it in, it's going to take it as an input and assign it to this variable called first name. And that's what the equal sign is. This is not assigned to here. This is assigned to over here. And the naming convention of the variable is that you want to have all in no spaces, but as you put them together, if there's more than one word, you want to capitalize the second word, so it'll be easier to read. And generally, you want to begin with a lowercase, but sometimes it's not, but whatever. And then once you get that, you capture the first name, you want to ask, get how many hours the user worked by asking the person again, using the input here, please enter the number of hours you worked here in the parentheses. But then once you get that number of hours, that is actual numeric value, not a character value, because over here, this input is going to accept whatever the user puts it in as a character, and the value that you have it for the first name will be a character. But in this case, we want a number, and all the inputs are taken as characters. So now we need to convert that value to an integer, because that's what we're going to be using. So if the person puts it in 1, that's a character 1, convert that into an integer of numeric value of 1, and assign it to the value of what's hours. Okay. So now that we have the first name and the number of hours worked, we need to do the actual calculations. But before we do the calculations, we may want to use this standard practice of assigning a fixed value of a variable, say a pay rate, because the pay rate is usually fixed. In this case, we're just giving the person a $30 an hour, so we're going to assign a value of 30 into this variable called pay rate. And then 15% for the federal tax rate, which is simplified, and there'll be more rates, in real life, but I'm just going to use one value. Same thing for the 5% for the state, and then 7% for the Social Security tax. So instead of using the numbers, we can use these variables to do the calculations. And here's the calculations. The gross pay is the number of hours worked that the user provided times the pay rate, the $30 an hour, right? So instead of saying 30, it's easier to read. And if the person's value actually, the tax rate, the pay rate changes, you don't have to come back and change this 30, but just change it up here. And all the occurrences of a pay rate will be reflected accordingly, right? And then you figure out the tax, federal tax amount, and you do that by the gross pay times the tax rate, which is the 15%, and you figure out the rest of them, and your gross pay, your net pay would be the gross pay, and subtracted all the other taxes that you just calculated. And then you output the information, and these are a whole bunch of print statements. So here the print statement is you put the print and then parentheses, and then enclose into whatever you want to say, exactly the way you want to say it, and that's the reason why these are in green. And then if you want to print any variable, value of the variable, you separate them by commas, and it'll be on the same line. And so the first name, we got it from the user, whatever the person puts it in, we'll do that. And the second line is, well, you want to print the your gross amount is in the text field, but in the text field, we also want to put a gross pay, right? But we want to put gross pay somewhat formatted, and notice that it is not comma out here, right? So unlike here, this will be a variable and there will be a text, but this will be part of here, and the percent sign is exactly what this gross pay is going to go into. So the dollar sign will print, and as soon as you see the percent sign, it's going to look for a variable to put it in this format. It is going to be a floating point, meaning it's going to be a like a number with the decimal numbers. And so here I'm going to format it, whatever the numbers it is, I'm going to print, and then print the decimal point, but I'm going to print only 2 digits after the a decimal point, and I'm notating it as a floating value. And then you'll be done. And you do the same thing for the other one. So that's the reason why it prints only 2 characters. If you want to put 3 digits after that, you just put number 3 there. Okay. So let's run this one more time and say, I don't know, Mike or something, and then say number of ours, so one again, and that's the reason why it only prints 2 digits for your values. If you want more than 2, then you just change that to 3. So that's what you do, and basically that's all you got to do. So this ends the demo on what to do for the program.